y'all. Welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. This is Collective Comrade. But today we're going to be talking about some efforts in New York City, the Bronx specifically, I believe. Could be wrong. But definitely New York. So I have a friend who's out there, and we were talking a couple weeks ago, and he was sharing some of the things that are happening at a street level. And I think it's really important to talk about. I understand I'm a white girl, but I am using my voice for this. So, there's a lot of street organizing, if you will. What I'm specifically talking about is gangs coming together to organize together against the system. I think this is an incredible effort. I am not affiliated with gangs, obviously, maybe, I don't know. But what I do think is important to understand about how gangs work traditionally, historically, is that they are groups of folks who get together to protect their turf. And I think that the system that is in place has done a lot of disservice to the ways in which gangs look out for their community. Obviously, this isn't 100% across the board, but in this case, this is what's happening, and I want to talk about it. So the person that my friend wants us to uplift in this, as the person who's heading this initiative, is not someone that I have been in contact with. I'm in contact with my friend, and he is, let me get his name, Aminra Farah, I believe is how you pronounce it. And he has an Instagram, so all of his information is in the description box below. And there has been, okay, hang on, let me scroll up in this conversation, because then I can just read it to you, what he told me. Okay, Bang United started after Nipsey died. So this is not just Bloods and Crips, this is also other gangs of folks. One in particular is called, I don't even want to say this because I'm going to fuck it up immensely. It's an indigenous word, but they're the only Native American gang in New York City. Together, all of these groups only crack down on gangs that do sex trafficking, so people who are preying on others. These folks have come together to unite against that. All right, that's what I want people to really understand, especially if this is something very new to you, is that gangs are often protectors in their community, and that, like I already mentioned, has been disproportionately, the narrative around gangs has very much been bad, right? We already know this. Again, this is a lot of propaganda, because when people come together to protect their own, when it's not state sanctioned, the state calls that things like terrorism or violence, or there's heavy policing. And that's what I experienced in LA. And I want you to understand that these efforts are not just in New York. I did get clarification on this. So Bang United is something that is coast to coast and everywhere in between, if the initiative catches on, right? So folks are joining. It's not a closed space just for New York. It's about black and brown unity and protecting the community, okay? All right. Latin Kings are involved, Crips, there's a lot of names in here that I don't feel like I need to read. To be honest, we've gone apolitical after seeing how politics didn't favor minorities, so we're all about grassroots and decided to pick up our route instead of red or blue. So red is Bloods, blue is Crips. All right. Oh, Baby Daddy was supposed to send me the acronym meaning for this conversation. I didn't get it yet. There's a lot more. all in caps, NYPD did not like us uniting. Fuck yeah. So, this is I've never been to New York. I don't know shit about New York, but homeboy is telling me thing. He says it's not just an East Coast thing. We're open to uniting, but forgiving like historical, what's the word for this? Disputes, I guess, in the past aren't easy. So a lot of people aren't down to collaborate on this level. So this is a grassroots effort for New York, but they are open to expand, right? Forgiveness was a big topic at the meeting. Okay. Oops. We started talking about efforts inside, and that's where my personal experience with this is, and this is going to be a little longer just because it's a little bit more abstract in the ways in which I'm sharing. But my baby daddy was affiliated in the 80s. He's an OG with the Bloods, which in LA, so in big cities or in urban landscapes, the grid system for streets is very obvious, and there's numbers, and the projects or the south side of cities or urban landscapes is usually the predominantly impoverished areas / black folks, brown folks as well. So that's where gangs form. That's where people, find the people who they want to roll with. That's where, and it's done on a block system. Urban landscapes are very much like grids. The ways in which urban landscapes are put together is very much like streets and then streets. And so it's easier for people to organize those blocks, right? All that to say is in LA, the street that cuts Bloods and Crips is Vermont, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken, but I don't think I am. And so when me and baby daddy were together, yeah, he was a Blood back in the day, but then when he went to prison, he joined an effort to also bring unity. So this is in LA, so this is coast to coast. There's been lots of efforts historically. There's been mothers from different gangs coming together. I don't remember what they were called, but specifically in California, there was a group of mothers who came together to call on unity. Chirac is another one. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. I haven't seen that movie, but that was when the women who were affiliated with a lot of men in gangs also went on a sex strike, and they were like, no, you guys need to unite and shit. Or at least find some common ground, right? Because instead of going against the system, right, what my friend said, we've become apolitical. We also are, doing grassroots efforts, right? So it's looking out for community, it's protecting community, and it's also ensuring that people are in community, quite frankly. So anyway, when we were where we lived, I've talked about this a little bit. I did a story time about what it was like living in the hood. If you want to check that out, it's on the playlist. That was my experience in LA as a white woman. I really just mind my own business. More afraid of the pigs than anything, right? The cops, the police presence in the hood is constant. The fucking helicopter, it's a war zone. It's a war zone. And then they skew all the data too for the policing. Like he said, the NYPD hates that we united, and they're going to do everything that they can to make sure that united front is disassembled, which is what brings me to this person that Minra, what's his name? Farah, that guy. He has a street name. I think it's OG Blue Steel. But he got locked up after this summit that they had. Here, you can take him. You don't need to bring that to me. And he's in the prisons, and he's blowing the whistle on what's going on. He's in Rikers. And so I have put his Instagram here. But here's some of the stuff that you can see. There's a call for unity. So this is video from the summit that he shared with me. But the person so I'm sharing my friend Seta, as well as, he's a rapper, and then I'm sharing, he said Rico, but Rico didn't give me Rico's handle. And then, so you can have either Seta's handle or Aminra Farah. So he's in Rikers right now, and I don't know if you guys remember in 2020 when the pandemic was happening, there was a lot of footage coming out from New York about how the prisoners in Rikers were being forced to dig mass graves. Do you guys remember that? So there are 2 articles in the description box below that Seta shared with me about how the guards are just like either not showing up or not being contracted. And so what's happening is there's a lot of organizing within that's happening. Getting me back to the point about Baby Daddy as well. When he was in prison, he joined the Black Guerrilla family, which was about unity. It was about coming together regardless of affiliation out in the world. And he was the education director for the Black Guerrilla family. And he helped folks decolonize from that mentality of being at war with each other about blocks versus, hey, everyone's being hunted by the pigs. Like, we've got a common enemy here. So anyway, the Crips were running the units at Rikers. So there's been a lot of organizing within, and Farah, or OG Blue Steel, is also blowing the whistle. And there are, on his page, he called someone, and you can hear him.
I don't see any views just yet, but
you can hear him sharing about what it's like on the inside, if you'd like to hear that. So I know this is a little longer because it's a larger collective comrade, and I've never been to the East Coast, so I wanted to make sure we talked about it thoroughly. All of this to say is, no matter what you've got going on in your local community, and this is the mentality for the La Raza Party as well, we all have a network that we can join at like a larger scale. But locally, communally, we are all doing our own efforts, right? And organizing at this level is something that's so necessary in these fucking times. And so if you have any ability to resonate with this struggle, if you have the ability to understand that regardless of what people are affiliated with, again, the common enemy is the state. And the state wants people to be divided, obviously. We talk about this all the time. And so I want to bring up this term here, and I want it to end here. When white folks say black on black crime, that's a lot of misleading information about gang violence. I've been watching documentaries about gangs since I was like very young. I've always been interested. I'm not sure why. I learned a lot I watched a documentary about the Latin Kings. I think the thing that interested me most about it when I was young was the initiation. And that varies from group to group, okay? Not all of them beat you until you're almost dead, but some of them do. And I think if you've never seen Fight Club, or if you're still wrapping your head around this idea of violence as a means to an end, because of the indoctrination that we've all had around like MLK and nonviolence and shit. Of course the state wanted to do that. Of course the state pushed that information, because the state is so inherently violent in itself that it's going to demand everyone to, turn the other fucking cheek, right? So I want you to understand that all of that has been indoctrination. So when white folks specifically talk about black on black crime, or black and brown folks, or anything that's not talking about white supremacy and how violent white folks are, stay in your motherfucking lane, first and foremost, okay? Second of all, your point is mute. There's no point there, because, again, these groups, or, they're protecting their community. They're protecting their own. And if you've never been to the hood, if you've never experienced the constant policing that exists in the hood, or in predominantly black and brown areas, wherever you are. It doesn't necessarily need to be an urban landscape, but that's what we're talking about, New York specific. I've never been to New York, but I have been to LA, and I did live in the hood for a minute. So I understand a little bit. But again, I mind my own motherfucking business. And again, the police were way more terrifying than anything. And I've talked about this. You know, people tagged our fucking fence all the time and whatnot, and it never bothered me because I'm like, I don't care. First and foremost, and I understand who I am, I understand where I am, and that's the thing. So stay in your motherfucking lane, first and foremost. Second of all, when there are community efforts for organizing against the state or against things that are harming community, if you are not going to get on board with those efforts, mind your own motherfucking business. And if you are going to get on board with those efforts, use your privilege and your access and your resources or your platform or your voice. Have conversations with people if you so choose, if you feel like you're trusted, or if you feel like you can trust yourself enough in that situation. Otherwise, continue learning about things you don't know about. Google is motherfucking free. But I think it's really important to acknowledge the good that's happening within this organizing. There's a call for unity. There's a call for caretaking within the system. We've, in the past few months, we've learned a lot about how neglected and how badly prisoners are treated. Again, I've never been to prison, but I have been to jail. It's not fun. Prison is long-term. Jail is usually short-term until you get sentenced, and then you can go to prison. Or mental institution in my case, or, liberation, whatever. But all of that to say is there is care here. There is organizing here, and there is a drive for unity. There's a drive for community. There's a drive to check the status quo, check the militarization of the police, right? We've seen a lot coming out of New York in the past couple, I'm thinking especially under the Biden administration towards maybe last summer when the pigs started going into the subways with their fucking ARs and shit and just like posting up. Like, that's the kind of shit that people are organizing against. They're keeping their community safe. And women are being set on fire on the fucking subways in New York, right? This has happened. There was someone that I just saw on TikTok that said someone got stabbed on the subway and was just like sitting there. So all that to say is, like, police don't make us safe. We make us safe. And I think that's a really important thing to understand. And I did see on OG Blue Steel's page that he identifies himself as a gangtivist, like activist but gang-wise. And I think initiating that front is super dope, and it's something that can happen all over the country. And again, if it doesn't involve you, you don't get an opinion about it. All right? Have a good one.